Digital expectations are always evolving. You have to break through the noise, because every sea change starts with a single drop. Acquia knows how to navigate a shifting digital landscape and shape a digital future that is safe, accessible, and open. Acquia's Open DXP promotes portability, customization, and integration, and champions freedom, participation, and inclusion. By empowering businesses and enriching lives through elevated digital experiences. Because when you have the freedom to create, the future is yours to shape.
Hello everybody, good afternoon. My name's Tom Bianchi and I run the product marketing team at Acquia. For those of you who haven't heard of Acquia, we're a digital experience platform that of course is very focused on Drupal, and we're thrilled to be introducing this afternoon's sessions. Now, Acquia helps people build open, inclusive, accessible and safe digital experiences everywhere. And we've recently launched a new product to help with that called Monsido. And if you want to see how accessible your website is, you can go and request a free scan for your site today. But more about today's session and this afternoon. As you all know, the Drupal community thrives from the contributions that we all make to the project, to the code, and to see that product continue to flourish. We're of course very excited about Starshot. And at Acquia, we've been busy contributing really hard too. There's a number of those key contributors in the audience, and I'm sure you all know who they are from our side. And of course, many of you have been contributing as well. We want to keep the theme of contribution going. And so there's a number of sessions, and this is a plug for the event rather than for Acquia, about contributing to Starshot. So if you're new to the community and you're wondering about how you can get involved, go to one of the Starshot sessions and learn how you can contribute to the future product that we're building together. All of that said, I want to reaffirm a pledge that I made last time I was on stage in the United States, and that is to spread the word around Drupal. I've already been speaking at a number of events over the summer, talking about Starshot, talking about Drupal, and of course this amazing community. And so if you haven't already made your pledge of how you can help Starshot become the next best CMS that's out there in the world, then today's the day to do it. All of that said, I'm now absolutely thrilled to be introducing one of our friends, colleagues, and of course, project lead for one of the presentations that you've been all here waiting for today. This is apparently, by loose count, the 40th Driesnote. That was a back of a napkin mathematics that Dries did before this event. And I'm sure those 40 presentations are all blurring into one right now, but this one I'm pretty sure is going to be the best. So I'd like you to give an absolute rock star welcome to Acquia's Chief Strategy Officer, and of course, the founder of and project lead for Drupal, Dries Buytaert.
Hello Barcelona. Good to see you all. It's been a while, huh? Last time here was DrupalCon Lille. So yeah, I'm going to be here giving my traditional State of Drupal keynote, and we have a lot to talk about, so let's get going. So some of you might remember DrupalCon Portland. Not all of you were at DrupalCon Portland, but we did announce something really big at DrupalCon Portland. Right? We actually announced the launch of the development of Starshot. And maybe hands up if you have heard about Starshot before this conference. All right, that's a lot of hands, but not all hands. And keep your hands up if you have contributed to Starshot. All right, that's quite a few hands. Nice, thank you. Now, not everybody has heard about Starshot, as I said, so I'll explain it to you real quick. The simplest way to explain it is it's a version of Drupal optimized for non-developers. And it's a version of Drupal optimized for non-developers, and by that we mean that we target content creators, digital marketers, site builders, And it's actually built on top of Drupal core. It's not a fork of Drupal core. We've built it, and we are building it on top of Drupal core. Now, I showed this slide in my keynote at DrupalCon Portland, and it was an important wireframe to show because it actually tells us how ambitious Drupal Starshot is. As you can see from this slide, it intends to be the recommended version of Drupal. And so its goal is to promote Drupal Starshot over Drupal core. And that's quite a big change because we've been promoting Drupal core for 24 years. And so I believe that Starshot is and will be our boldest mission, our boldest initiative yet. Its goal is to transform Drupal. And to succeed, it needs to become the largest collaborative effort in Drupal's 24-year history. And as you'll see in this presentation, we've already brought together many volunteers and organizations to help build this mission together. And as Tom mentioned, in Portland, I asked people to pledge. I asked people to fill out a form to help, and over 500 people pledged in Portland, which is like an incredible number. And so we've been working on activating a lot of the people that wanted to get involved. And so in this presentation, I'm going to ask many more of you to get involved, because our journey is not quite over yet. In fact, we're about halfway there. You might remember that I named this initiative Starshot as a nod to President Kennedy's space race, or what many people know as the moonshot, right? President Kennedy challenged the US to put a person on the moon. And in the case of President Kennedy, he gave NASA 8 years. Now, in our case, I said we would launch a version of Starshot in 8 months. So that means we're halfway there. And so I'm sure the question that's on a lot of your minds is like, what has happened since DrupalCon Portland? How are we doing? Are we on track? Are we gonna get a release on time? These are all great questions. And so in this Driesnote, I wanna do 3 things. 1, I wanna share our progress. 2, I wanna give you a demo of all the things that we've built so far. I hope that will be exciting. And 3, I wanna invite more of you to get involved and help. Now, after DrupalCon Portland, I was like super excited. Like there was so much positive news and excitement, and people came to me and they said things like, this is exactly what we needed at this time. And so I went home super excited. And my first mission was to alter the fabric of time and space. And when I say that, I talk about my own time and my own space. And so I restructured my time at Acquia so that I can dedicate 4 to 5 hours a day working on Drupal Starshot. I mean, that's how committed and passionate I am about Drupal Starshot. And so I went from managing a few hundred people to managing a team of 4 in the last few months. Again, so I can focus on Drupal Starshot. And once I'd organized my own time, I knew that I needed to build a team because nobody goes to space alone. And so I've had the privilege of building an incredible leadership team for Drupal Starshot. You know, with Tim and Pam, Christina, Lenny, Gabor, Suzanne, all amazing people. And the past month, we've been meeting 3, 4, 5 times a week, probably more than what they want, you know, working on Drupal Starshot. And I can say it's been a real pleasure working with such talented people almost every day. And all of this also has been made possible thanks to you know, sponsorships from Acquia and Technocrat, Lullabot, the Drupal Association, and Evolving Web. So big thank you for the Drupal Starshot leadership team. It's been a lot of fun, I will tell you that. Now, one of the first things that we did is we launched what we call the Starshot Control Center, because I know it's been really hard for people to keep up with everything happening in Starshot. People have told me that more than once. And it's actually hard for me to keep up sometimes. There's that many things changing, and things are changing fast. So we designed this page to keep you up to date for all things Starshot. So if you want to know the latest and the greatest, and you're ready to start contributing to Starshot, this is the page that I would like you to go to. And it's nice to see people raising their phones to take a screenshot. The other thing that we did is we created an advisory board, which we call the Drupal Starshot Council. And the members include end users, that's important, core committers, Drupal Association board members, Drupal Association staff, certified Drupal partners, so agencies. And we really try to bring together all of the key stakeholders so that we can build Starshot together. And we've been meeting monthly ever since. I believe we've had 4 meetings so far, and we've gotten feedback and direction on our progress. Starshot was always a code name, and we have since also officially named the product Drupal CMS. And to come up with that name, we gathered input from people inside and outside of the Drupal community, even people that had never worked with Drupal, and Drupal CMS ended up being the top choice. Maybe not a big surprise, but we wanted to get the name right, because we might be using it for many, many years to come. And so you're definitely welcome to use the name Drupal Starshot for the time being, but you should know that by the time that we release Drupal Starshot 1.0, our hope is to retire the name Drupal Starshot. And so for anyone that's blogging about the conference or these kinds of things, I would encourage you to start using Drupal CMS as the name. Now, I will try to do the same in this keynote, but knowing myself, I will probably mess up at least a few times, and that's okay. But let's start getting into the habit of using the name Drupal CMS. We also spent a couple of months working on a product strategy for Drupal CMS, and you can actually find the full details in a 9-page strategy document that we posted online, which I can go through here. But if I had to summarize the strategy in one sentence, it is for Drupal CMS to be the gold standard for no-code website building. And our goal is to empower non-technical users, as I mentioned, like digital marketers, content creators, site builders, to really create exceptional digital experiences without having to rely on developers. So no IDEs, no command line, these kinds of things. And we're also, if you read the strategy document, explicitly targeting smaller budget sites as well. You know, we see an opportunity for growth and expansion by focusing on non-technical people, as well as broadening the sort of the size of projects. And some of you might be wondering, how is this good for me? I'm a developer. I'm an agency owner. What does that mean for me? Well, I do want to reassure you that we are not abandoning our home base. We will continue to invest in Drupal core. We will continue to invest in developers. We will continue to invest in enterprise users. As I mentioned, Starshot is built on Drupal core, so we need to make sure Drupal core does well. And developers and enterprise users are important for our future too. And so the way to think about Starshot is as a product or a strategy that complements what we already do. It's not meant to replace what we do. All right, I think that's important. All right, with that said, I think I'm ready to jump into the demo. Now, yeah, should be exciting. Now, keep in mind, we've only been working on Starshot for 4 months. So this is very much a work in progress. So this is not going to be like an Apple-style demo where everything is perfect. This is a work in progress demo. All right, are you ready to see it? Yeah? All right. I'm gonna narrate some of the videos that we recorded. And the demo will be the major part of the presentation. We call it the mother of all demos. And it will be about 35 minutes. All right? Here we go.
Meet Sarah. She's a marketing superstar, recently headhunted by Sabovin, a company that specializes in wine tours, right here in Barcelona. The company's website, built on another CMS, is reliable, but it's become slow and lacking in features. Sarah has bigger ambitions, but she's always relied on a developer to help her realize her creative vision. She's exactly the kind of new user we want to go for. Sarah is the person that we're thinking of when building Drupal CMS. Sarah's been asking for months for a page with a calendar that highlights upcoming wine tasting tours, and she wants customers to be able to filter tours by location. It's a simple request, but the way things are set up now, it all just seems so clunky. Even she ends up looking at TripAdvisor first. So Sarah speaks to Tom, the company IT manager. Tom is an advocate for Drupal. In fact, Tom has already suggested to their boss Maria that they should switch to Drupal. But Maria is wedded to their current CMS. Maria has told Tom to concentrate instead on upgrading their email system. But hey, says Tom, you could build a prototype in Drupal CMS and prove Maria wrong. Yeah, says Sarah, but secretly she's thinking, Drupal? What kind of nerd do you think I am? Just try it, says Tom. Trust me, it's simple.
All right, so that's the background. That's the setup of our demo. And so the first thing that Sarah does is she goes to Drupal.org and she sees a really good looking site. And as she scrolls down, she even sees new to Drupal and she's like, yeah, that's me. And it essentially reassures her that no technical expertise is required. And then she decides to learn a little bit more about Drupal CMS by clicking this link. And now she sees another page with content that is clearly written for marketers in mind. And this is exactly what Tom told her about. And she gets product information about Drupal. And finally, she sees this button, Try Drupal CMS. And basically, if she clicks on this link, that will launch her into a trial experience. So she clicks this button, and the first thing that happens is the browser actually downloads Drupal. And then it starts Drupal in the browser, so no need for PHP, MySQL, web servers, does not depend on any servers or clouds or hosting companies. It's all done in the browser. And then once Drupal is started, we launch into the installer, which looks like this. And you can see that on the installer, she has different features that she can enable. She sees things like advanced SEO, events, and more. And she ends up enabling events. She knows events. Her website is an events website today. And so that's kind of what she came for. So she enables the events capability. And then she continues the installation of her Drupal site. So she enters a company name, hits next, and yeah, everything continues to install. And after the installation is complete, she finds herself on a dashboard, ready to go. All right, so that's the first piece that I wanted to show you. And there's a couple of things I wanted to explain about what you just saw. Well, the first thing that you saw is a new brand for a new market. And personally, I think it looks gorgeous. I mean, what a difference with the current Drupal.org. Don't you think that it's such an improvement? Yeah. And yeah, I want to give a special shout out to Acquia, Sean, for creating the brand, for evolving web, for creating a lot of the content, and Palantir and the Drupal Association for implementing these pages. So these are real pages now implemented in Drupal, and you can actually go to them right now on new.drupal.org. And so in the last few months, if you remember, in Portland, we announced the new brand, and ever since, we've now brought some of the brand to life with these new pages. And so the next step is to implement more pages, and then to cut them over, so to speak, to Drupal.org. So some really good progress there. You also saw a trial experience. And for the first time in 24 years, we're actually going to be removing long-standing barriers to Drupal adoption by making it possible and easy for anyone to trial Drupal. And Matt Gleman, I think he's here, the author of the trial experience, he's going to be giving a session about this tomorrow. So if you're interested in the trial experience, and under the hood, by the way, it's using WebAssembly. So if you're interested in sort of state-of-the-art web technologies with WebAssembly, please, by all means, go check out his session tomorrow. And then finally, you saw a new installer for Drupal. I'm sure all of you have seen the current Drupal installer. I can tell you the first time I saw the updated installer, I couldn't believe it was Drupal. Like, it looked so different. And it's not that it looks good, it does look good, but it also had support for recipes. And that's the features that you saw are all recipes. So I'll talk a little bit more about recipes in a minute. But first, let's continue our demo. All right, so Sarah has installed Drupal CMS, and you saw that she had enabled the recipes feature, the events feature. And so now she can click on events, and from there she can add a new event. And so you can see this date and time widget that comes with the events recipe. It allows her to set a start date, end date, duration, these kinds of things. She has some content prepared, and so she copy-pastes her first event in the form, as you can see here. And she can also add a video, so she can open the media library and add a quick video to her first event as well. And once she's ready, she can publish this, and she created her first wine tour. Now, you can see the recipe comes with all kinds of out-of-the-box features like maps and addresses, but there's also this calendar tab that was added. And this essentially allows her, because she's an administrator, to move events around, to change the date, the duration, the start time, the end time, these kinds of things. Now, of course, because she's an administrator, she can do these things, but she can also quickly check what this does for anonymous visitors, so people visiting the site, and they can still get this view, but obviously, as you know, they can't move these events around. And then finally, there's like features like these little links here that allow people to add the event to their calendar really easily and really quickly. So all of this is now available to her with just one click of a button. In the process, she was also able to consult some documentation, end-user documentation, I should add, written for people like her, written for marketers, and you can see a table of content, but then she can also click into the events page, and there she gets really great-looking documentation with screenshots, and that teaches her how to do certain things. So it looks really good. So let me unpack that a little bit as well. So the first thing that you saw are recipes. And I'm sure you've heard about recipes by now, but I believe that they're actually game-changing for Drupal. Why? Because they bundle years and years of expertise into repeatable, shareable solutions. So essentially, a recipe combines modules and content and configuration and documentation and packages that all up and makes it available for people to install with one click of a button. And so what a developer, maybe takes a day or so for a developer to put all of this together, you can now basically install in a few seconds. And that's great for Sarah, but it's also great for Tom because it really just simplifies the learning experience. At no point did she have to go and learn about content types and all of these things or permissions. And so it really accelerates site building for everyone, not just for the Sarahs of the world. But you can even use it within your organization, whether that's an agency or an end-user organization, to share best practices internally or externally. And so pretty powerful, and I'll show you a couple more recipes later in this demo. We do have a session about this as well, so if you're interested in recipes, you can go to the session, I believe it's on Thursday, and learn more about how to create recipes, etc., etc. And then you saw some end-user documentation as well. We created one page so far, and personally, it looks great. We also used a new brand for it, and I truly believe that good documentation will be critical to the success of Drupal CMS. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about documentation later on in the presentation. But first, let's keep going through the demo.
In just a few minutes, Sarah has taken her first big step into Drupal CMS. But while she's been exploring, one of the freelancers on her team has uploaded a low-res image to the existing site. It's one of those little mistakes that drives her mad. I wonder, thinks Sarah, could I stop this happening if we were using Drupal CMS? Sarah works with lots of freelancers, so she needs the new site to be foolproof. She wants the dashboard to say wine tours, not events, so nobody gets confused about what kind of event goes in there. Tom suggests that maybe Drupal CMS's AI can help her, but Sarah's not sure. Sabovin has just ditched an experiment with AI for answering customer questions. It was terrible. The AI couldn't even learn their own FAQs. But Tom seems convinced this time will be different, and so Sarah gives it a shot.
All right, now before I jump into the AI demo, which I'll show you, I do want to say a few things. One is that I really believe that AI will empower anyone to become a no-code site builder. I really do believe AI is a pretty important part of our future. And so really I have three convictions, I would say. One is the fact that I'm convinced that Drupal must embrace AI, not only to stay relevant, but also to fulfill our mission of helping site builders. And two, I'm actually convinced that Drupal is ahead of others when it comes to using AI, and I'll show you that in our demo. But there's a third conviction that I have. And my third conviction is that we need to build the right kind of AI. Now, for the avoidance of any doubt, I mean the helpful AI on the right, not the evil one on the left. And essentially, we need to guide our users to use AI responsible. You know, Drupal is a large open source project. We power a large number of websites in the world, and we need to help set the standard for how to use AI and how to use AI responsible, because I do believe others will learn from us. And so before showing you a demo, I would love to talk a little bit about responsible AI policy, something that we've been working on. And our approach to responsible AI is anchored in 4 key principles. One is that we always need to have a human in the loop. What that means is that a human needs to be able to review AI decisions, revert AI decisions, those kinds of things. 2 is transparency. We need to be clear, really clear about where AI is used, so that AI isn't like a hidden feature. And 3 is we need to support, different language models, swappable large language models. And the idea is that users, they need to be able to choose AI models that fit their preferences, whether it's based on privacy, ethics, bias mitigation, even, customization. A lot of organizations, they work in very specific industries, and they may want to use a very specific, large language model that is specifically trained for that industry. And the 4th principle is that we will help promote responsible AI. Where possible, we will guide our users to those AI models that reduce bias, prioritize energy efficiency, respect copyright, uphold strong ethical values, you name it. And there is more details behind this, and we'll be posting those on Drupal.org in the next few weeks. But for today, I just wanted to give you 4 high-level principles that we have kept in mind when building our AI capabilities. Now, based on these principles, let's take a look at how Sarah uses AI for site building. All right, so the first thing that Sarah wanted to do is she wants to rename events to wine tours, because that's easier for her users and she don't want them to be confused. So she can open the Drupal AI agent and essentially type and ask the AI agent to rename the content type. And she does, and then when she reloads that page, we can see that it was renamed. So super easy for her to rename a content type. So that's pretty cool. Now, she wants to take this a step further as well. The next thing she wants to do is add an image to the content type. Images are important when promoting wine tours. And so in Drupal speak, she needs to add an image field, and she's essentially going to ask the Drupal AI to add an image field. And she can type that in her own language. She doesn't need to know Drupal terminology. And then the next thing she wants to do is basically avoid that people upload these low-res images. So she wants to configure this image field, and she asks the AI to make it high-res. And as you can see, that worked. And the AI agent even knew that high-res meant 1920 by 1080. So it automatically figured out the right settings. And then finally, she wants to make sure that the image field is always at the top of the form so that her content creators will never forget to fill it out. So it is a little bit more visible. And she asked that as well. And you'll see that it will move up to the top of the form. And all of this is pretty special, I think, that we were able to make this work. And I'm going to show you in a minute how this all works. So yeah, here you can see that the image field moved to the top. What do you think? Cool? Yeah. All right, there is one more thing she wants to do. She actually has all of these wine tours, and she would love to classify them by wine region. So in Drupal speak, again, she needs to create a taxonomy. But typically, people don't know that word, or they don't know that that's the feature that they need to use. And so users could spend some time figuring that out. But Sarah can skip all of that, again, using AI, and she can basically ask the AI agent to add a wine region. And not just that. I hope you caught it, but she also asked the AI to populate the taxonomy with the top 20 wine regions in the world. And it did that as well. So it created a field and it populated it with content. And obviously, that saves her a lot of time. Now, with all of these things configured, she essentially decides to create the first, or another wine tour, I should say. And she decides to use the image field that she just added. And you can see her upload an image, and unlike her freelancers, she uploaded a high-res image, and so that all worked. Then she can configure the date and time. It's the same widget that you saw earlier in the events recipe. And then she can add some content, and you'll see her set the wine region as well. Now, as she tries to save the wine tour, turns out that the alt text for the image is a required field because the company cares about accessibility requirements. And she can actually use AI to help generate an alt text. Now, this is a great example of a human in the loop where somebody can actually review what the AI generated before hitting save. And so she makes some edits, hit save, and she created a second wine tour. Pretty cool. So what you saw is AI for site building. And I've shown this video to a few non-developers, and literally their jaw dropped. They didn't think this was possible with Drupal. I've also shown it to developers, and their jaws dropped as well, quite honestly. And honestly, I haven't seen many competitors do things like this. And I think this shows that Drupal continues to lead and push boundaries, and that we need to keep this innovation going. Now, the good news is that all of you can help with this. The AI code that you just saw, it's all open source, and it's built as a framework so that people can contribute to it. You can add your own contributed modules to expand it. And I want to give a special thanks to Freely Give, who've been leading the development of all of the AI capabilities that you just saw. Yeah, let's give them an applause. Yeah. Jamie and Marcus have a session. Can actually read it myself. They have a session later this week, so please go check it out. They'll give you all of the details. Now, I'll leave the details to Jamie and Marcus in their session, but I want to give you like a 1-minute preview of what's actually happening under the hood and how this all works, so you understand how it works, but also so you can see how it connects with the responsible AI policy, and also that maybe it will inspire you or help you understand how you can also help contribute to this part of Starshot. All right, so let's take a look. So everything that you saw in the AI demo is done actually by what we call AI agents. And you can see the list of AI agents here. We have like, 7 or so. And so, manipulating the image, what you saw in the video was done by the field type agent. Again, adding a wine region, that was done by the taxonomy agent. So you get the idea, right? In essence, these agents, they connect the Drupal APIs with the AI providers. And if you're a module maintainer, you can probably ask yourself, would my module benefit from having an AI agent, like the ones you see? Because you can easily add them using the AI framework. Now, I mentioned that we want to be LLM agnostic, meaning that users should be able to choose their own LLM. And this is done by AI providers, which you can see on this screen. And we support about 7 today, but I believe this list will grow in the future as more of these things become available. And so all of this is built using an abstraction layer, and it's that abstraction layer that gives people choice. So organizations can even bring their own AI provider if you build your own LLM. And so for the demo, we used OpenAI, but again, I think in the future, there will be many alternatives. This space is moving so fast, and new things are being released every week that this will continue to expand quite rapidly. Now, we have different AI agents, but we can actually map different tasks to different AI providers as well. So let's say for generic tasks, you can use like a generic LLM, but let's say you have a very specialized task that's very unique to your company or your end user's company, you can actually train an LLM for that and only map certain tasks to specifically trained or domain-specific LLM. So you can start to see how you can use maybe one LLM for alt text and another LLM for completely different things, right? Does that make sense so far? Again, this was like the 1-minute preview of what's happening under the hood. Again, go to Jamie and Marcus's session for more details. Now, what you saw in the first set of videos is how the Sarahs of the world can use AI for site building. What you saw in these last couple of videos is basically for the Toms of the world, how you configure these AI agents, but also how you might write AI agents. Now, regardless of whether you're Tom or Sarah, I personally believe that these agents have the potential of transforming Drupal. As you saw in the video, AI really makes it easy for anyone to start using Drupal, and AI could become the new UI, if you will. And I can personally see a future where a Drupal site may have dozens or even 100 of these AI agents all working together. And so I believe this is pretty transformational, and I believe that Drupal is leading in this space. And I can't wait to stand here in future DrupalCons and show some of the AI agents that the community that you all will have built. All right, ready for the next part of the story? Yeah, let's keep going. Yeah.
With a content type all set up for wine tours, Sarah realizes she now has to explore the SEO features. She knows SEO is important, but she's dreading it. This is not her forte. She texts Tom. Tom, SEO, help! Tom replies, you might be able to install it using Project Browser. Look, I'm stuck in meetings the rest of the day, but I can help you tomorrow. Tomorrow, thinks Sarah. Well, I might as well try myself now while I'm waiting.
All right, so you saw in the installer that Sarah only enabled the events recipe. And so now she has to go and enable the advanced SEO recipe so she can actually navigate to Project Browser, as you can see. And then she can go ahead and just click install on the advanced SEO recipe. And this essentially installs and configures over a dozen modules in just a couple seconds. And again, what would take a developer maybe a day or multiple days to learn and figure out and discover on Drupal.org, she can now install with the click of a button. And after she installed this, she has all of these different SEO tools available on her site. Now, SEO can be complex, right? There's a lot of parts to SEO, and but fortunately, she can learn about all of these different parts. She can, go through this tour, interactive tour that explains her all the features and all the settings. And as a side note, this tour feature that I'm sure some of you have seen will be included in what we call the base recipe. Starshot will have a base recipe, and that's available to all of the other recipes to use. So this is how different recipes can make things easier for users to learn about. And so here, she can see some of these advanced features like XML sitemaps and robot.txt configuration and much, much more. Now, she's relieved to see that everything is kind of pre-configured. But she also sees how she can be able to make changes to all of these things, right? And so setting this all up can be done in less than 5 minutes, or she can go off and spend probably hours, tweaking and configuring everything. But out of the box, it comes pre-configured. So with our SEO settings configured, she goes back to one of her wine tours. And when she clicks edit, she still sees the form that she saw before, but now towards the bottom, there is a new section specifically for SEO. And there's a number of fields in there, but I want to draw your attention to the focus keywords field. And these are where she can enter keywords for which she wants to rank highly in Google. And she types in the words wine tasting. That's what she wants to rank high for. And then you can see these little balls, green, orange, red at the bottom. These are suggestions for how she can improve her content. And so she's going to implement a few of these suggestions. So one of the suggestions was to have a title in her content with the focus keywords in it. And so she adds a title. And by the way, while she's using WYSIWYG editing, she was able to use Markdown for adding a title. But she adds a title with the words wine tasting. Another suggestion was to add the words wine tasting in the URL. So even though we pre-generated easy to read URL, she can also override it. And you can see that she adds the words wine tasting to the URL. And as she does that, you see these balls go from orange and red to green. And so she knows instantly that some of these changes will be good for her SEO. So she gets that instant feedback. So a few things to unpack here. Obviously, what you saw is Project Browser. I didn't spend a lot of time on it. You saw some UX and UI improvements, but you also saw how we now have support for recipes in Project Browser, which is a big new development. I'm pretty excited. Now, on the side, we need help finishing Project Browser. One of the first big next things is to add what we call Package Manager. That we need to finalize that and add it to core. And that's essentially a building block of both Project Browsers and automatic updates. You also saw the SEO recipe and how it saves people maybe days of work configuring all of these things. And then finally, you saw inline tours, how we can make it easier for people to learn about recipes that we built as a community. Now, so far I've shown you 2 recipes, SEO and events, but we actually have 14 recipes in the works. So what we did is we looked at the product strategy that we created together. The product strategy basically told us here's some of the features that we need to build and that we want to have available out of the box for our target persona, like marketers. And then we mapped each of these features that we need to build to what we call tracks. Many of these tracks are recipes. And so we identified a first set of 14 recipes that you can see here. And then the Drupal Association worked with the certified partners to essentially recruit individual leaders and organizational leaders to go build these recipes. And so today we have those 14 tracks, and they're being worked on by a lot of different organizations that you can see here on the screen. So let's give them a big round of applause, because in the beginning of the presentation, I mentioned that for Drupal CMS to succeed, it needs to become one of the largest sort of collaborations in Drupal's 24-year history. Well, this is one way that we're doing this. We're leveraging the Certified Partner Program to bring together some of our best Drupal agencies in the world. And together, we've been building towards this mission that we have with Starshot. So, new way of doing things. Now, 14 recipes isn't enough, believe it or not. And we have ideas and plans of adding more recipes. We haven't launched those yet, but after DrupalCon, give us a few weeks, but sometime after DrupalCon, we'll launch even more recipes that we would like to build, and we'll be recruiting even more individuals and digital agencies to help build them. So today you can get involved with these recipes, but in the future there will also be new recipes that you can help with. So, all right, let's go back to our story.
Sarah has built one wine tour page and optimized it for SEO. But her old site has hundreds of pages, and almost all of them need to be migrated. This is going to be a nightmare. weeks of boring, repetitive copy and pasting. But unless she can do it, she'll never convince Maria of the benefits of switching to Drupal. And so, encouraged by how easy the AI has been so far, Sarah asks it for help.
All right, so this is actually Sarah's existing website, non-Drupal website. And a challenge that she has with it is that all of the content is basically packed into a single body field. Who does that, right? And so it's essentially one blob of HTML. Now, Drupal, on the other hand, uses a more structured approach to data. And so the goal here is to convert that HTML blob to a structured Drupal content type. And so, as mentioned, she's going to ask AI to help. So she sees this feature, import with AI. And what's really cool about it is you can just enter the URL of our website, and it will crawl the content, and the AI will handle the complex task of mapping all of the content to the different fields. And then when she navigates to it, you can see it figured out the date range and put it in the date field. So it figured out all of the fields. It also analyzed the content, and it knows that it was about Tuscany. So it automatically populated the wine region field to be Tuscany, and it figured out the image and stored the image in the image field, which is pretty powerful. Yeah.
The prototype in Drupal CMS is looking good. Sarah's marketing colleagues can't believe she built it, but Sarah's still got a nagging doubt. She hasn't created that feature she wanted that lets visitors explore wine tours by regions, and that could mean going into a lot of technical detail.
All right, so she essentially has to do one more thing. Like in the beginning, she wanted to create this page where people can visit her site, and visitors can filter all the wine tours by region. So, Sarah wants to create a page, right, to do this. And in Drupal, we would typically use views to do so. Now, while views are powerful, they can also be intimidating to learn for the Sarahs of the world. Now, luckily, Drupal AI will handle all of that for her, and she can just type again in sort of words that she would use to create a page and specify kind of how she wants it to work. And so Sarah simply tells Drupal AI to create a page with a specific URL, and she asks for this interactive element to be added, and the Drupal AI will simply do it. Now, what's great about this is that it creates the view, and she could actually go into that view and configure it, tweak it, and tweaking a view is a lot easier than creating one from scratch. So it's a great way to learn about Drupal. Now, in this case, she doesn't, but she goes straight to the view as it is published or available for her visitors, and you can see this interactive element works, and the visitor can now filter all of these wine tours by region, all using AI. Yeah. All right, so the last two videos, you saw a couple of things. One, you saw AI-assisted content migration. It's pretty cool, potentially revolutionary way of how we might migrate people from other CMSs to Drupal. And the second thing that you saw is AI-assisted page creation. And what that means is that Sarah accomplished the goals that she set out in the beginning. Not sure if you remember them. So let's see what happens next.
In just a few hours, Sarah has built a highly functional prototype site with a bit of guidance from Tom, but mostly by herself. They show the prototype to their boss, Maria. Sarah presents, with Tom there to support. So here's what we did with Drupal CMS. Sarah tells Maria, if you're happy, we'll take it away and make it fit the house style. Sarah's expecting a well done, but just a minute into the presentation, Maria stops her rudely and turns to Tom. Tom, she says, I thought I told you not to mess around with Drupal. How much time have you spent on this? Almost no time at all, Tom says defensively. Actually, Sarah says, I built this all myself, and it didn't take me long. Maria is happy, but Sarah is delighted. She is Drupal CMS's latest fan. She accomplished in hours what would have taken weeks with traditional methods and with only minimal help from Tom, the developer. This shows how far Drupal CMS can take us into a whole new market, non-developers like Sarah, who are crying out for a simpler way to realize their creative ambitions.
All right, so that was the demo. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Some of you might be wondering, is this real? And the answer is yes, this is all real. You can go check out the code. We even created a test environment where you can go play with all of this yourself. Obviously, as I said in the beginning, we're only 4 months in. So while this is real, it's not necessarily production ready. So there is a caveat, if you will. But yeah, you can go check it out. You can get involved. You can try it yourself, all of these things. So I definitely encourage you to do so. Now, I have a few more things. All right, I have another big update. Experience Builder. Actually, some of you that were at DrupalCon Lille might remember that is when I announced the Experience Builder. An Experience Builder, for those that don't know, is a major initiative that will play a critical role in Drupal Starshot, but also Drupal core. And while I've mentioned Experience Builder in my keynotes, I've never actually shown it until today. I'm going to show you in a second. But I think Experience Builder is transformational in its own way. You know, forget about recipes, which I think is transformational. Forget about AI, which I think is transformational. Forget about our new brand, which I think is potentially transformational for Drupal. Forget about some of the other things I showed you today. I think Experience Builder alone could change the course of Drupal. And I think it will affect everyone in this room. So what I want to do is first show you what we have built so far. And then after that, I'll talk a little bit about why I think it is such a big deal. Now, I'm going to show you, but I'm going to show you in a slightly different context. We're not going to continue with the Sarah and Tom story. Instead, let's take a look how we might use Experience Builder to design a page on Drupal.org using our new brand. All right, let's take a look. And by the way, this demo shows working code as well. All right, this is what the Experience Builder looks like today. And what you can do is you can hover over all of these elements to see how the page has been constructed. Under the hood, this is using single directory components, which is a relatively new thing in Drupal as well. And then we can also style different things. And so I'm going to show you how we can style some of these components. So for example, if you go to a button, you click on it, you can select between different styles. And this is essentially how you can implement a design system. It has like primary, secondary, each of these have completely different styles. And you can make changes if you don't like it, you can undo them. Just hit Ctrl-Z and the change is undone. There you go, I think. And then you can also make some other edits. So for example, if we wanted to align text differently, let's say we want to center that text, we can just click on it, say center. Let's say we wanted to add a little bit more margin at the bottom, we can also easily do that. So it uses predefined styles, but you can still make tweaks like that as well. And then we have a library of components that people can use. And you know, the Sarahs and the Toms of the world can go build these things as well. So let's take a component like a testimonial and just add it in here. Again, you get an instant preview. You can click on it, you can edit the text, you can even change the image all through this UI. Happens to be a photo that I made of Laurie, the initiative lead. Now let's say that looks a little cramped. You can just drag it up and drop it in a different container, and look, it looks less cramped and better. And so yeah, that's a very quick demo of what we have. And all of this has been done thanks to the help of a number of companies like Acquia and Salsify, Accelerant, Previous Next, and QED 42. So big shout out to them as well. There they are. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Experience Builder, because as Experience Builder is being developed, and as I've been tracking that development, it has become clear to me that Experience Builder will reshape Drupal. It will reshape the Drupal admin UI. And when I say eat the Drupal admin UI, what do I mean? Well, let me basically explain that to you. But today, if you think about the Drupal admin UI, you can think of it as this kind of purple section. And for phase 1 of Experience Builder, we're focused on things like how to use Experience Builder for individual landing pages or templated pages, page templates, global sections like maybe the navigation or the footer of every page on your site, as well as some content editing, as you saw in the video. All right, so great. That's phase 1. But we've had conversations about how this might evolve over time. And so if we think about like a phase 2 or a phase 3, now we get into things like how to enable the Sarah and the Toms of the world to design components. How can we redesign content workflows? Should views be re-implemented in Experience Builder? Views probably needs to be re-implemented to make it a more modern experience. And then most likely it should be part of Experience Builder, right? And the same thing with menu management, and the list goes on and on and on. And as you start to think about that, now Experience Builder becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and could kind of modernize the whole Drupal UI, right? Now, the thing you should know about Experience Builder is that it's being built in React. And so what that means, if you can put one and one together, what that means is it will lead to a reactification of the Drupal admin UI, which is kind of a big deal, right? It's something that we probably want to discuss and talk about in the next week here. And we're doing this not because it's easy, it's a big change, but we're doing this because it's important. And it's important because this will help us modernize Drupal, and specifically the Drupal admin UI, and it will bring down the cost of building great Drupal user experiences, and we can already see this in building the Experience Builder. The team has been able to build things in days what would have taken them weeks to do using traditional Drupal approaches. And so we'll be able to do incredible things in a matter of hours and days versus months. And this will also help attract more JavaScript developers to Drupal, which I think will be great for a variety of different reasons. We're also going sort of all out to make Experience Builder happen. I'm not sure if you know, but we now have the equivalent of 30 full-time employees or contributors working on this, which I don't believe we've ever had 30 or the equivalent of 30 full-time people work on anything in Drupal, not even Drupal 8. And so there's a massive investment going into just the Experience Builder part of Starshot alone. And Laurie, the initiative lead, has a session about Experience Builder later today at 4:30, where he will go into the details of it and where you can learn more. He might have a longer, better demo, all of these things. But if you're interested in Experience Builder, please go check that out, all right? Now, I want to come back to this slide that I showed you in the beginning and talk a little bit about the release schedule, right? I said originally we want to launch Starshot in 8 months. I told you we're halfway there. So let's talk a little bit about sort of next steps and where we go from here. So again, 8 months when I announced it, what that meant, if we did the math, all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's at the very end of 2024, which isn't ideal because we have Christmas and New Year's. I mean, not everybody, but a lot of us have holidays, I should say. And so we decided that we should move the date a little bit. And what better date to move it to than Drupal's 24th birthday, which will be on January 15th, 2025, which is still approximately 4 months from now, but that's the date that we're actually targeting to release, Starshot 1.0. Now, that gives us about 4 months from today, and what we'd like to do is try and get a release candidate out by DrupalCon Singapore, which is sort of December 11th, in about 3 months. So we have a lot to do in the next 3 months, and that's where your help becomes important. Now, Experience Builder is going to take more time. That's a massive initiative. It's going to take a little bit longer. But we feel confident that we will release Experience Builder 1.0 in 2025, just not in January. So what that means is that once we release Experience Builder 1.0, we might release Starshot 2.0 as well in the same year. We have a lot of thinking to do here. We have a lot of things to figure out. I just wanted to give you our current thinking. Some of this might change. More details to come. So keep an eye out for a blog post on Drupal.org from the Starshot leadership team with more details in the next month or so. But I wanted to take the opportunity to give you an actual target date versus 8 months, And so now we have something to work towards. This will obviously impact the different recipes that we're building and all the coordination with the track leads, et cetera, et cetera. So expect us to, start focusing on all of these things. All right, so I've showed you a lot of things. If you want to get involved, there is many, many, many ways to get involved. I just want to highlight 6 ways, but there is more. One is Experience Builder, which I just showed you. Already, many people are working on it. But we definitely could use more help. Recipes, I talked to you about recipes and how we have 14 recipes in development. You can help with those recipes. And then we're going to be announcing more recipes in the next few weeks as well that you can help with as well. AI agents, I gave you a 1-minute preview of how you build these agents and how they work. Again, think about how they might benefit your modules and contribute to these AI agents. Add some new AI agents. Drupal.org, I showed you the first pages being built and being up and available on new.drupal.org. Well, we have a lot more pages to convert and a lot more building to do, and that's definitely an area that you can help, whether you're a designer that can translate our brands into pages, whether you're a content creator, whether you're a developer, front-end developer, we can use all kinds of help. Project Browser, I mentioned, we need to get that finished. Package Manager is one of the next milestones to get in core, and then documentation. And I mentioned documentation in the beginning of my demo, and I want to come back to documentation right now. All right, so as I mentioned, documentation will be really crucial to the success of Drupal CMS, and we've already created a comprehensive table of content that you can see on the screen for all of the documentation that we want to produce, and it really covers the range of user needs, I would say, from installing Drupal, getting started, to deep dives in each of these recipes. And so we need to write all of that documentation. It's a lot of writing, a lot of creating. And so the next big question that we had is, how do we actually write all of this documentation? And so we're essentially launching a program which is inspired by Adopt a Highway program that some of you might know. It's a thing in the US where organizations can adopt a piece of the highway and help keep it clean. Similarly, we're going to be launching today a Adopt a Document program. And this is a partnership between the Drupal Association and Drupalize.me, where Drupalize.me, which is one of the premier documentation companies in the Drupal community, is going to help us write and maintain documentation. So allow me to explain how this will work. So if you're interested in sponsoring a page or a section of the documentation, you can essentially pay $2,400 to the Drupal Association. The Drupal Association pays Drupalize.me to write and maintain that page of documentation. And then in return, you get your logo on the page of documentation, similarly to how a company might get their logo next to the highway, right? Simple idea. Here's what it might look like. So this is the events page of documentation, and your logo would be right there. It has Drupalize.me right now, but imagine your company logo there instead. That's the whole idea, and it's writing the page plus maintaining it for 1 year. And so I'm pretty excited about this, a new way of doing documentation. Now, the state of documentation in Drupal overall needs a lot of work too. We have to update the documentation of Drupal core. We have to write documentation for other contributed modules. We need to archive some terribly outdated documentation. We need documentation standards. We need to figure out the best tools to use for documentation. We need to build a team and grow a team of documentation writers, amongst many other things, documentation. And so we also need to invest in a long-term, sustainable Drupal-wide documentation initiative. And so what's actually going to happen is some of that money will go to creating documentation pages for Drupal CMS, but the Drupal Association is also going to hold some of the money back, if you will, to hire and employ a full-time documentation lead, which I think is super exciting. Yeah, exactly. And good news is, because we have the table of content, we actually have 30 sections or pages that we can get sponsored today. And right now, the idea is one sponsor per page or section, and also using a first-come, first-serve approach. So if you're interested in adopting a page, you email Lenny, and she will get in touch with you in the next couple of weeks, probably after DrupalCon. There's a lot of other things going on, but please do reach out to the DA. We previewed this program with some of our advisory council and other organizations, and we already have one organization signed up and committed, and we have 3 or 4 others in the pipeline that will hopefully close relatively soon. So it's already starting to work. So I showed you a lot of progress today. I hope you feel like we showed you a lot of progress today. We showed you a new brand for a new market, and it looks gorgeous. Showed you a trial experience that will remove 24-year-old barrier to Drupal adoption. I showed you an improved installer, looks great, and supports recipes. I showed you the events recipe, one of the 14 recipes we're building. I showed you our first page of documentation, professionally written, high-quality documentation that looks good in our new brand. I showed you AI for site building, along with a responsible AI policy. I showed you Project Browser and the fact that it supports recipes. I showed you the SEO recipe, or at least a part of it. Inline tours, which every recipe can use to help it make it easier for people to adopt and learn about Drupal. I told you we have 14 recipes in the works and maybe 10 more that will be announced the next few weeks. I showed you AI-assisted content migration, which could be a completely new and revolutionary way of migrating content from a non-Drupal CMS and even a Drupal CMS potentially to Drupal. I showed you AI-assisted page creation using views. I showed you for the first time an update on the Experience Builder and how it's starting to come along and how hard we're working on it. Also showed you how that can help future-proof the Drupal admin UI and bring new talent into the Drupal project. I showed you a documentation plan, not just for Drupal CMS, but also for Drupal as a whole. And in the process, we actually have 2 new funding models that we've brought to life. One is having CDPs, Certified Drupal Partners, help fund the creation of recipes, and 2 is adopt a document. So a lot of things that we've done in the last 4 months, and I think a lot of these things are great for marketers. Obviously, that's our primary target audience, but there's great things for developers, and there's great things for contributors. And so I want to give a massive, massive thank you to all of the people that have contributed towards this demo and Drupal Starshot. You see many of the names here. I'm sure I'm missing some names. There's a lot of people that contribute indirectly as well, but please give it up to all of these amazing individuals. Amazing individuals that helped make this demo possible. Behind them are their organizations, of course. So please give it up to their organizations as well that have sponsored their time. Yeah. All right, I just want to say that I'm incredibly proud of how far we've come and how quickly. And I think I've stood on stage at DrupalCons kind of expressing frustration with maybe how hard it is sometimes to innovate. But today I feel like that is changing very fast. And I would also say that this transformation has been an incredible collective effort, involving everyone from the core committers to the Drupal Association staff to volunteers to agency partners and more. We've really come together as one team to build some of these things. And I would say that together, we've been really focused on iterating rapidly. We've been focused more on user experience, more than we have ever before. We've embraced some really new out-of-the-box thinking on how to make things happen quickly. And I think it shows, you know, we've been moving faster than ever, I would say. And I think it's just super excited. You know, every day I feel excited about what we're doing and the progress that we're making. Now, probably doesn't really matter what I think. And I think ultimately what matters is how our customers, our end users think about this. And I will tell you that clients and users are taking notice. For example, Ryan, the CEO of Centero, he texted me this just a couple of weeks ago. He said, I landed a whale today, like a large customer, and he beat out the competition. And the reason he won is because Drupal Starshot spoke directly to the client's needs, which is kind of cool. And the best part is that we haven't even launched Drupal Starshot yet, and it's already having some impact on how people win deals and how people compete in the market. So pretty cool. And again, we have 4 months to go. So imagine what we can do in the next 4 months. I certainly hope we can get a lot of things done. Now, let's return back to planet Earth for maybe one last slide. To right here in Barcelona, right? Where we all are together today. Because it would be crazy for me to stand here in Barcelona talking about Drupal's ambitious building project without actually stopping to learn from one of the most ambitious building projects the world has ever seen. Anton Gaudi took over the Sagrada Familia in 1883, and it became his life's work. And people have been working on the Sagrada Familia for 150 years, or almost 150 years. And it's not just Gaudi's work, actually. It's the work of 5 generations of architects, builders, craftspeople. And these people have stuck with Gaudi's project for 140 years or so, not because they were paid to do it, not because they were contracted to do it, but because they believed. They believed in doing a good thing. They believed in their faith. They were proud of their work. They were proud of their city and proud of their faith. And similarly, I think we can be proud of our work. You know, we can be proud of our city, the Drupal community, and we can be proud of our mission, which is to promote and defend an open web. But I will tell you, we don't have 150 years for it. But I believe very strongly that Drupal CMS, which is sort of the latest addition in our familia, if you will, is something that we can all be proud of and will be proud of. And so I urge you to use this week here, DrupalCon, to find out more and learn about how you can get involved in our ambitious building project. So with that, I want to say thank you for listening. We have a little bit of time, so Tiffany Ferris from Palantir, she will be asking me a few questions. So there's a short Q&A.
I think it's going to be super short,
Yeah. Oh, okay.
because we don't want to miss the photo. But I do have one question for you. How many Driesnotes have you done?
I think about 40.
About 40?
Yeah.
40? Yeah, this is like my 26th DrupalCon. I can't even imagine doing 40. But we do have actually something to show you for that one.
Oh.
Yeah, so take a look.
I'm surprised.
And I'm sure you have questions. I have questions. We'll do those later.
Oh, I didn't change a thing.
Yeah.
Thank you. The vote is out. Wow, I had no idea.
I know, none of us would be here without you, Dries. So thank you.
Thank you.
You put so much into all of these.
Oh.
and-
We're gonna split it 1,000 ways. Okay?
Yeah, right. Well, thank you all for being here. We want to make sure we get to the photo, but I have questions, you have questions. We have a DA board meeting tomorrow. It's going to be short, so let's bring questions to that. I'll bring my questions you should come to in this room at 4 o'clock tomorrow. So,
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a nice surprise.
If I get one of the mics to work. One of them. All right, thank you. So this cake will be eaten by some of the people that contributed to Starshot. You got an invite for after the group photo. And now it's the group photo. So let's go down to the registration and we take the group photo there. Thank you. Okay.